Hello, my name is Lauren Berg, and today I will be presenting my weather observations for Week 2 as compared to the NWS location Eielson AFB, denoted by the letters PAEI, for North Pole, Alaska, for the week of March 18th through the 24th of 2019. The date of all of my observations is at 1 p.m., and my observations span the days of the 18th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and the 24th. My weather observing station is just east of the main city of North Pole, here in interior Alaska. So my temperature readings for this week were shown in terms of my measurements in this span of time. I did not record any measurements for approximately 3 days, so there are a little bit of discrepancy in terms of how it relates back to this graph, but it is relatively the same, with a slight temperature rise in terms of the highest temperature, a similarness in terms of the lowest temperature, the average temperature kind of dropping slightly by a few degrees. I think it was the most degrees out of any drop, which is like 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and it goes back up in terms of the average temperature, back down slightly, and then goes up fairly high. In terms of the lowest temperature, it evened out, went down severely, which you can also see in the NWS data, and then kind of evens out again and goes down slightly. Highest temperature goes up, stays the same, goes back down a little bit, and then evens out, and actually had a similar temperature to the temperature I recorded at 1 p.m., which is, as you can note, kind of not normal. This might have been due to cloud cover. In terms of how it relates to the NWS data, like I stated, it's fairly similar. My graph kind of starts here, and as you can see, there's kind of a slight rise, or, in the middle, similar to how this goes. And then there's that steep drop, and then it kind of goes back to normal, if not raising slightly, as you can see here with this steep drop. In terms of pressure, my graph is very similar to the NWS data in that it goes slightly up over time and then has a huge spike and then goes back to somewhat above before, the day before, and then goes up fairly high. As you can see in the NWS data, it's fairly similar with this peak drop that's slightly lower and then going up slightly. Here's my day-to-day observations. In terms of cloud cover and wind, I noticed that there was almost very consistent cloud cover at 90 to 50 to 10% rarely, with about 1 to 2 Beaufort wind scale, and occasionally a 5 to 6 in terms of upper air. So for Monday, I observed 90% cloud cover, similar to altocumulus. There was about a 1 to 2 Beaufort scale at the ground, but above ground I noticed that the tops of the trees were moving very wildly. On Thursday, I noticed 0 movement in terms of wind, and about 50 to 60% cover with wispy cirrus clouds in the south. On Friday, another 0 on the Beaufort scale, and a 100% cloud cover with altocumulus. Saturday was another 0 on the Beaufort scale with about 50%, a mixture of cirrus clouds and cumulus. And then on Sunday, there was about a 0 to 1 wind that was kind of gusting, so it occasionally came in and then occasionally went. And then another one of that phenomena where it was about a 5 to 6 that you can see in the trees but could not feel on the ground. And there was about 10% cover in terms of clouds, with cumulus and cirrus, once again. My observations for the recorded weather is fairly similar. My weather station would be located around here, as you can see from this. And as you can notice, there is a fair bit of clouds. It's kind of around the edge of what looks like a storm system. But in terms of what I noticed was that there was a heavy amount of cloud cover, which you can see here. There wasn't any precipitation throughout the entire week, so it must have just gone slightly to the east of my location. But you could still notice that there was a lot of clouds in the area, and that could have accounted for the high gusts up in the trees rather than on the ground. The next day, or on Thursday, I apologize, there was kind of a warm front, which wasn't extremely noticeable in the temperature data, but there was a 50 to 60% cirrus, which you normally associate with warm fronts. The next day, yet again, there were clouds. Lots of cloud cover in this area that's very full compared to this, where it's kind of, there's these little lines of clouds that you can kind of imagine cause the 50 to 60% cover, as compared to here where it was 100%. Here you can see that there were little to no clouds in the area, but there was about 50%, probably due to this little area here just kind of coming in. And then the final day, there was plenty of cloud cover in the area. No precipitation, so it kind of was around the area, but not quite. And then for all of the different images for the 21st, which was, let's see here, 21st was that Thursday. So on Thursday, there was about 60 to 50% cover in terms of cirrus, which you can notice here in all these different images. There was, in fact, just a few clouds with that 50 to 60% cirrus, which is clear from this data here. In terms of the accuracy of the persistence measurements, there is kind of a clear accuracy to the persistence. Here you can notice that there is little to no change. Between here and here is the highest amount of change, but it is still within that 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So that kind of says that it would be fairly accurate for at least the 4 days, but according to the worksheet, for a 3-day would be the maximum. And then that final day there was an extreme spike in temperatures. In terms of the climate variability, there was an extreme variability of around 30 degrees Fahrenheit from the normal climate record, which is around 16 degrees Fahrenheit for this particular area. So that could possibly be explaining an aspect that I noticed over the winter, which was that there wasn't a lot of snow. And any time that it did snow, it often were large flakes. They didn't really stay. They kind of went with the heat. And that could have led to the ground absorbing more infrared radiation from the sun, which would have resulted in more heat for the rest of the environment, especially without the snow's albedo keeping the IR radiation from coming into the Earth and creating that heat. Let's see. I did not observe any unusual weather events, just that it was like everything was melting, which was just such a strange thing for this time of year, but with the basically over 40-degree weather all the time, it's understandable why the snow would be melting, considering it's above that 32 degrees Fahrenheit that's required for snow to kind of stay together in that frozen state. So overall, this week has been a very strange week, and it's just been crazy warm for this time of year and this type of climate. Unsurprising due to the snow cover being so low, but regardless, it's a very interesting phenomenon this year. Thank you.